We really thank you for your patience in waiting for us to take up this item. We didn't want to take up this item until we had the hand-carried proposed CD that was offered by Council Chair Anderson. And once we got into executive session, there were some very there are executive session items that required a lot of discussion and deliberation. So again, we apologize for the delay, and thank you very much for your patience for those of you who have come here to testify on agenda item number 2. So agenda item number 2 relates to resolution 19-182, excuse me, which authorizes the mayor or the mayor's designee to receive and expend limited purpose monies for the state of Hawaii for the Alawai Flood Risk Management Project and to convey project property improvements to the state of Hawaii. And again, we have a hand-carried CD1 to this particular resolution. This is hand-carried by Council Chair Anderson, and he's not here to explain it, so I'll just briefly go over it. The CD1 makes the following amendments. It adds a new penultimate resolve clause and makes technical and non-substantive amendments. Okay, now we will now receive comments and testimony regarding this particular resolution. We'll start with the representative from the administration. Is Director Robert Croning here from the Department of Design and Construction?
Good afternoon. Name is Robert Croning, Director of the Department of Design and Construction. Thank you, Chair, committee members, for hearing this resolution and allowing me to speak. What I'd like to start with, why I'm here is to ask for your support of this resolution. As you probably know, this project, many years ago, as we started discussing the project, originally the feasibility study was a state-sponsored program. But as we moved into the construction phase and the actual selection of a project, the state and the city agreed on a separation of responsibilities. The state agreed to basically pay for the capital costs of the project, and the city was going to take over the maintenance for the rest of the life of the project. Well, this Reso is needed to support that, to support the state's efforts to give us the funding that's required for this project. So that's why we support this. We support that the state continue to provide the funding for the project and that the project can go forward. This actually doesn't guarantee that the project will still go forward. There are a lot of other things that need to happen to make that fully come to fruition, but this is an important piece of it, and we believe that the project as it's moving now is moving in the right direction and that we should fund it. Hopefully, for those of you that were there last night at the Permitted Interaction Group, you were able to see that we are certainly listening and hearing the public. And what I'd like to do for those that weren't there is kind of show that is happening. For instance, every issue that was brought up last night, we were able to clearly answer. And the reason we're clearly able to answer those is because we've heard them all before. We've heard and we've listened to them and we've analyzed them. And so our answers were not off the cuff. They're based on analysis. And so that's some of the evidence. And for instance, a lot of the things, and the other thing is we support a lot of the comments that we're getting. One of them being that we want this project to be environmentally friendly. We are certainly working to have that happen. We are going to reduce the amount of as much concrete as we can, and we're going to keep this environmentally friendly. We are also going to minimize as much as possible land acquisition. We've heard that many times. We are going to reduce the amount of land acquisition that has to happen. And I can tell you right now, already some of that is taking place. It hasn't been publicized yet because these are projects that take a lot of review, analysis before it can really be publicized. But there will be some reduction in land acquisition. And also, we want to minimize the effects on quality of life. A lot of people have talked about, running around the canal, and they don't want to have to run around a wall that's 4 feet high. Well, we're going to make sure that the wall is in a place that it actually creates a nice space for running and for using multi-use paths. For every place where it fits, it'll be a berm or a levee, and it won't be a wall, and it'll be in conjunction with what Waikiki should look like, or the area of the canal. So we have certainly heard that. We agree. We at the city agree with a lot of the comments that are being made, and we're providing the oversight to make sure that happens. The one thing that we don't necessarily agree with is there's just a lot of feelings that this is going to have huge impacts on the community, negative impacts on the community, and we haven't, other than hearing that, nobody's shown us where that really is taking place. But we are certainly open to hearing it. I'm easy to get a hold of. The Corps of Engineers has a website where people can send in all their issues, all their comments, to where that can be taken into account. So, like I said, we're hearing, we're listening, and we're performing analysis on it. So we've also had to sift through much misinformation. There is quite a bit of misinformation out there. And we're counting on you to also do that with us. We need you to make sure that you analyze what's being said and sift through it. Things, for instance, last night there was a comment about we're going to be taking the land of over 100, 200 property owners. We're going to be acquiring that land. That just isn't true. And the comment that floods don't kill people, I mean, that's certainly not true. So we have to be able to sift through that, and we need your help to do that too. In the end, the most important part of this project is it needs to work. So we have to weigh all the niceties that we'd like to have with this, and we're going to force and make sure that we have as many of the niceties as we can, but it also has to function. And so there has to be a happy balance, a good balance in that. And so I feel we're moving in the right direction to get there, and that approving this Reso helps us to continue that. And I think you know the effects of it. If this doesn't happen, if we don't get this agreement signed with the Corps of Engineers eventually, then we lose the money, which it's not the end of the world. I mean, we can figure out other ways to get money, but that'll push this project way into the future, and it just takes longer. It opens up the risk a lot more that a huge storm is going to come, and we're going to lose billions of dollars, and we may lose lives. So the faster we can actually get this done to help protect against that, the better. And I don't think there's been some comments about better alternatives, and so we are analyzing alternatives all the time. In the feasibility study, there were several analyzed, and there's been good comments from people in this audience and who came last night. Things like put a water detention storage area under the LOI golf course, and there's been open up the canal to the Waikiki area, and there's been put a gate at the end of the canal and a huge pump. All of those great ideas, and I appreciate that people are doing research to find these things, and we do analyze them and we look at them, and for right now most of those have just not fit into this project appropriately, and it's not the right place for them. So it's not that we're not listening, it's just sometimes they're not the right answer. So I ask that we get your support to at least let this go forward. And again, I'd like to remind you that by letting this go forward doesn't take away the ability to still affect what the final outcome is. The city always has the ability to terminate the project. So no matter what, if it's going in a way we don't want it to go, we can terminate it. So let's not kill it now when we're still in the analysis and the development phase. That's it.
Okay, questions?
Thank you, Council Chair Emeritus Minor. Thank you, Director Cronin. Did you have an opportunity to look at the proposed hand carried offer by Council Chair Anderson, and does the administration have any comments on that?
I have, and we're fine with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other questions? So just a brief question. I mean, I'm sure you've been asked this many, many times, been fully discussed exhaustively, but the concern is still adequate community input. So if this resolution were to pass, would the community still have an opportunity to ultimately provide input and perhaps influence the final design of the project?
Right. Excuse my language, I hope this isn't offensive, but we engineers certainly got caught with our pants down. We no way anticipated this kind of an opposition to this project. We just assumed this type of a project was a no-brainer and that we would be able to move forward because of the benefits that this project brings. And so we have not gotten out front of the information campaign that we should have gotten out. And so now we're more on the defensive. But at no time have we ever not listened to the community input. Because we failed horribly in getting out in front, we're trying to make up with it now by holding events such as a town hall. We're going to the neighborhood boards to help explain and talk to people and let people know that we're still open to input. There are limitations to some of the changes that can happen to the project, but as I mentioned last night, in the end, if there's a much better alternative out there that's presented to us than what we have and we can't use the monies that we have, we'll go with the much better alternative and we'll figure out a different way to get to it. But that hasn't been presented. And we've got experts working on this that if any of them believe that there would be a much better alternative, that it would be worth the time and the effort and the monies to go for a better alternative, we would support that. But right now, we're comfortable that the project right now and the way it's headed is one of the best options for this problem that we have to solve. But like I said, there's websites for people to write in, and if they provide information that truly shows that something should be changed or there's a much better alternative, we'll certainly go with it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. No. Thank you very much. All right, we have a list of registered testifiers, but because it's taken a while for the committee to get to this stage of the committee meeting when we can receive public testimonies, and you've been waiting for quite a while there since we were in executive session. What I'm going to do is just ask those who really have to leave because you have appointments that you have to make or other commitments that you need to attend to. I'll allow you to come up first to offer comments regarding this particular resolution. So how many individuals would fall into that category? Okay, you've already left. Okay, all right. So what I'll do, okay, yeah, please come forward.
I thought I was safe when I only had a 5 o'clock appointment, but I guess. But thank you, Chair Minor and members of the council. My name is Rick Agate. I'm the president of the Waikiki Improvement Association, and we support this resolution. I've been involved in working on this project since I first came to Waikiki over 20 years ago. So this has been under discussion for a long time. And I have to say that just like most people, I'm not completely happy with the end result. But nevertheless, it's the project we have, and we do have the kind of, in much to my surprise, actually, is the way the funding came about. The emergency funding through Congress. But it's here. I think we have to do our best to work with it. I think if we cooperate as a community, we can make a good lemonade out of some of the lemons that we have here, and I appreciate all the work that the city is putting into it, Robert Croning particularly. I think that the walls that have to be contained to expand the capacity of the Alawai can be set back from the canal itself so that they don't create the kind of visual blight that none of us really want to see. I think that a lot of the detention basins can be grassy areas as opposed to anything with concrete, and therefore be an asset to the community during that 99% of the time when there is no heavy rain. And I'll stop my testimony now since the bell rang. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, to kind of move this committee meeting along, what I'll do is we have a rather long list of testifiers. So I'll call the testifiers up in groups of 4, right? So when I call your names, please come forward and sit in one of the 4 chairs that are positioned at the tables. We have David Purcell, David Kimo Franco, Brad Fry, Paige Kawakami. So again, for those coming forward, I would ask that you state your name for the record, before you offer testimony. Okay, we can start with this gentleman here to my left.
Aloha, thank you for having this meeting. I'm Brad Fry. I moved to Palolo Valley and live about 100 feet from Palolo Stream. So you're my council member now. I oppose the subject resolution because I want to prevent the $345 million LOI flood control project from becoming a fiasco like the rail project. Today, the LOI project plan is inadequate in several ways. I say this as a retired Boeing engineering manager who worked on several multi-billion-dollar airplane programs. The project is inadequate because it does not evaluate the proposed design versus any alternatives, not from an engineering, political/stakeholder, or fiscal standpoint. This is not the right way to make a $345 million decision with ongoing unknown maintenance costs and major impacts to numerous stakeholders. However, it is early days, and the right City Council decision and action today can turn this project into a success. The City Council, therefore, I think, should disapprove this resolution at this time and require a formal and thorough multi-dimensional review of this design versus alternative design approaches, including the latest proven technologies. Most of the data already exists. The study would include but not be led by the Corps of Engineers. Oceanit would be involved and may lead the project. They've got 10 years of experience in data. And I think it should involve an innovative firm that has had success using newer technologies. They would provide an insight. I estimate it would cost 1% to 3% of the project cost. It would result in good, credible information on the engineering, political, and fiscal trade-offs of the core design and alternatives, and recommend at least one optimized solution. And then the public and the city administration and the city council would be able to knowledgeably understand, discuss, and approve this project, because it is needed. Now, I do not know how light rail became a fiasco, but I bet that 1 or more times the city council was steamrolled by the same arguments you are hearing now from the city administration. Please do not be steamrolled this time. Take the right action to avoid a fiasco. You have the power currently to turn this inadequate project into an engineering, political, and fiscal success. Thank you.
Okay, questions
Oh,
for the testifier? Okay, thank you. Next testifier.
Yes, Councilman Minor and council members. My name is David Purcell. I live in Palolo Valley. Built my house about 100 feet from Palolo Stream. I've lived there for almost 45 years, 35 years. And see that stream every day, and I've never seen it rise more than a foot or two, no matter how much rain we've had. And we had to build our houses above the 100-foot flood line, and the stream has never come anywhere near close to that 100-foot flood line. I don't think the taking of private lands and disruption of this natural watershed flow should be done just for the preservation of structures elsewhere. I'm in favor of building, shoring up the LOI Canal to handle some increased flood, but I don't think all these watershed basins are the way to go. I apologize for not having my written testimony with me today, so I've had to ad-lib my testimony. But I feel from my heart, and I hope somewhere within your psyche, if you feel that pouring concrete into the streams in beautiful Pololo and Manoa valleys doesn't feel right somewhere in your psyche, I hope that you'll vote against this proposal. Thank you.
Questions?
Good afternoon, David Frankel. I live in Kaimaki. I will not personally be affected by this project, but I think it's an incredible social and environmental injustice. Let's talk about the wall for a second. And people emphasize the importance of the wall to protect public safety. But it's fairly basic hydrology that building the wall as is proposed, as is described, is going to negatively affect the neighborhoods of Kapahulu, Makali, Mo'ilili, because the water that would have flown through Waikiki will backfill into those neighborhoods. So in order to save Waikiki, you're screwing the communities that live on the other side of the canal. That's just wrong. It is absolutely unjust to save Waikiki at the expense of residents of Mo'ilili, Makali, Kapahulu. And you should not move this forward until at a very minimum that issue is addressed. Our streams. Putting a 33-foot tall, 400-foot long, and 100-foot wide structure in a naturally flowing stream destroys it. It destroys what makes our communities great. It destroys something you don't need to destroy. It is wrong. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to walk along any of these streams, but they're beautiful. They are what Hawaii is about. They are not about engineering. They are a natural resource. And this plan destroys them. There is a better way that the Army Corps is refusing to look at and what the city is refusing to look at. And those ways are described in part in the EIS, and they're not fully considered. You guys took a great step a few months ago when you passed the Monster House law and put a limit on impervious surface. That's the first step we need to do to reduce runoff so we don't have huge flooding problems. The city was very resistant to you incorporating that requirement in the law. We need to now go the next step to reduce the amount of impervious surface so that we can protect communities. The plan fails to look at reasonable alternatives. What we get from the administration is this attitude that we listen, we're listening, yeah, they're listening, but they don't care what they hear. They are not making changes to the plan. They are patting us on the head in a condescending manner, saying they've taken our input. They don't care what we say. By passing this resolution, you are authorizing the mayor to sign this agreement, which has substantive legal effect. This city will be on the hook to pay the Army Corps of Engineers $100 million, even if the city pulls out. He says, we're free to leave this agreement every time. Yeah, you're free, but you got to pay. That's not free. You are contractually obligating the city prematurely. There is no state authorized or ratified environmental impact statement that's been completed. None. So your authorization now is premature. There's no recognition in the PPA itself that there are a number of laws that need to be complied with, and that if the city or the Army Corps of Engineers fails to get these permits, the project needs to stop. And the city should not be on the hook if that happens. Let me conclude by saying I came to this council, I don't think any of you were on it at the time, prior to the rail project being approved, and I told this council that it was vulnerable to a lawsuit for its failure to prepare an archaeological inventory survey. Our claims were dismissed, we were poo-pooed, and the result was we sued and we won because the city failed to do what it needed to do. It rushed through under political pressure. Don't repeat that mistake. Thank you.
Mr. Frankel, did you get a chance to read the proposed CD1?
I did.
And does it address any of your concerns?
Not really. It's, I think somebody earlier used the expression lipstick on a pig. I mean,
Yeah.
for one thing, it's unclear what authority you are retaining, but you need to be much more, what you should say is, the resolution should be amended to say, this does not abrogate the city council's power to deny an SMA permit for the project. It does not deny the city council the ability to not fund it. There are a series of specific things that you should lay out. Preserving your rights that are unarticulated is unclear. I don't know. I think there is. I'll say this is being rushed through, and there needs to be a lot more thoughtful consideration of amendments, but I don't even think you're ready for amendments. We need a good EIS to be done at the state level, which is required.
Well, I think you're right. It's being rushed through. I think everybody is in agreement with that. But if the idea is that this funding may be taken away from Hawaii, sent to Louisiana, right? Because there's other projects around the country that are in need of the same money. So we're fighting for the same pot. We could use your help if you could think of how we can preserve the money coming in, but yet while at the same time giving us options.
So I think you guys might be operating on a little bit of a misunderstanding. Legally, I am baffled at the principle that you could lose this money. An act of Congress passed it. Unlike the way city government works or the state government does, the executive branch, at the federal level, does not have the authority to not spend money that's been appropriated. There are court cases when Nixon tried to impound money. So I understand that our friend Brian Schatz wants things to happen. It makes him look bad to his colleagues. But legally, I don't see how it's at all possible that any of this money is really jeopardized from any legal perspective. The Trump administration can't take that money away. So I understand you guys are hearing things from the senator's office. To me, it's not legal reality. It may have some political gloss behind it, but it has no legal bearing.
Well, let's assume that it is correct.
Okay.
And that, so I'm asking for help, right? I mean, I'm giving you an opportunity to participate and help us draft something that we could still preserve the funding, right? We meet that obligation by keeping the community's concerns in mind. Because it'd be terrible if we did lose the funding. It really would, because of our inaction. I'm really concerned about that.
I will sit down and craft some language. I'll give it some thought. I'll be a lot faster than the Office of Council Services was.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, I just want to point out, sorry, Chair. We were in the executive session. We didn't talk about this subject at all. I'm not sure if anybody said that. But we didn't talk about this subject at all. It was all about other things that are on the calendar as well. So I just want the people to know that we weren't ignoring you. Thank you.
Yeah. So just a quick follow-up before I defer to Council Chair. So isn't the concern that Congress might decide to reallocate those dollars to other projects if they feel that there is inaction on the part of the city?
So I can see that as a political possibility. So there's no. So if that's it, Congress doing it rather than the executive branch, sure, that's possible. I think it's unlikely given the Democrats control the House. Obviously, in the Senate, Schatz and Hirono are in the minority, but I just don't see them. I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible. Given the contentious nature of the relationship between the executive branch and the congressional branch, I mean, the way the budgets are done these days, a project like this, which is not even a fly speck in the whole budget, I don't see it getting attention to remove it from funding. I mean, that's how I see it.
Okay, Council Chair.
Thank you, Chair Merrick. But in fact, the senator could be correct that we could lose this funding.
and the world could end tomorrow. I mean, everything is possible. I don't, sure, it's possible Congress could do something, but legally, I don't see how the executive branch can take away the funding for it. But could Congress do something? Yeah. Is that realistic? I don't think so. And I think there's more important things. I understand money is important to you. I think the social and environmental fabric of our community is important, and we shouldn't rip it to shreds. You guys are committing to a project in a way that will tie the hands of future councils and administration. Why do that? Why not wait until more alternatives are on the table?
I understand what you're saying in your speculation, but with all due respect, I believe that the senator's in a much better position to share with us what Congress is likely to do or not to do just because of his position. I think he knows more in that regard than all of us do as to what is likely or not likely to happen.
You can have that opinion. I disagree with you. I disagree with Brian. That's fine.
Fair enough. But I sincerely would appreciate your kokua as Councilmember Waters asked to draft something.
Okay.
In that regard, if you could kokua there, I think that'd help us a lot.
All right.
Really. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Emeritus.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next group of four, Brian Bagnall, Peter Arnold, Ellen Watson, and Scott Snyder.
Hi, I'm Ellen Watson. I'm a resident of Manoa. I'm also on the Manoa Neighborhood Board, but I'm not testifying on their behalf. I'm testifying on my behalf. Here we are. This is our R&R moment. And you would all think that means rest and relaxation. But it doesn't. It means Robert and Roy moment. They have brought to you this resolution and their contract. And so I think there's many flaws in the resolution. I think there is gaping omissions from their proposed agreement they want to sign. And so I was really bothered by this last night, and I did go to the informational session last night, and I slept on this, and I got up this morning and I called the Pentagon because R.D. James, who is their boss, is the bottom line. So I spoke with Regina, the secretary, and then I emailed her after I had a discussion with the head guy, and I would like, it's very short, please allow me to read what I wrote to them. I'm expecting their written response tomorrow, verifying these facts, which is my question to them. It says, Aloha Regina, that is the secretary to R.D. James. I want to confirm by email the facts as I understood them from my phone conversation with Ted Kerr this morning. If possible, he could confirm these facts by sending me a quick email. I would be grateful. Timeliness is critical here. There's a resolution before our city council today regarding entering into a PPA immediately because the USAC opined that the congressionally appropriated funds will expire. Have a deadline that requires an immediate, urgent PPA to be signed. Ted Kerr confirmed to me, and he's the third in command under R.D. James for fiscal responsibility. I can give you his, I don't know. I wrote down their big long titles, okay? And I have that for you. Anyway, the facts, as I talked and got from the Pentagon, from the fiscal head budget guru guy for the Pentagon for this project is this, the following. Congress has appropriated $345,760,000 has been congressionally appropriated for the Alawai flood mitigation project as written in the chief's report. That has been signed off by R.D. James Pentagon. That Congress has adopted the chief's report and appropriated the federal funds, and the appropriation has the blessing of the President of the United States administration. And the monies have no expiration date and no deadline to be met, a time pressure risk. and that funds cannot magically disappear if a PPA is not immediately signed. Additionally, the only way the $345,760,000 as published can go away is if the state of Hawaii governor and/or city and county of Honolulu mayor tells R.D. James at the Pentagon that Hawaii no longer wants the funds and does not intend to do any LOI flood mitigation work with the money, or if R.D. James determines that Hawaii should not have this money for sound reasons, i.e. R.D. James has the power to pull the funds. He's the big kahuna, Secretary of the Army for Civil Works for the United States of America. Further, that no PPA needs to be signed today, and that it will take about 1 year and 4 months for the Army Corps of Engineers to complete their topography, geographical, soil sample studies within the scope of their current plan. Therefore, there is ample time to provide input to UACE plan by community, elected officials, subject matter experts before any PPA need be signed, and the PPA does not need to be signed until the point where the actual construction is set to begin. I expect tomorrow morning a confirmation from Mr. Ted Kerr to be on my computer, because by the time I sent this, they were gone for the day. And R.D. James, of course, is the Assistant Secretary to the Army for Civil Work Project at the Pentagon, and he's the big guy. Ted Kerr is the Assistant for Fiscal Programs Management at the Pentagon. And he will talk to, I don't know, Vance somebody, who's the other Deputy Fiscal Management Programs. So there is no risk that Brian Schatz or Congress can take this money. This money is set in the bank. The Pentagon says so. Nothing can take the money. Brian Schatz changing his mind can't take the money. Political pressure from his buddies can't take the money. It's there. There is no rush, absolutely no rush, for you to pass a resolution, sign a contract that I think has lots of holes and poor language in it, with the city to get a PPA so they have a partner so they can push ahead. Zero reason to do so from the Pentagon. And I have their phone number, and I have their email. Call them, write them, get it for yourself. But before God and man, this is the truth, and I will have written confirmation of this truth for all of you tomorrow morning. So at best, table this whole doggone thing, and let's do fact-finding. Let's just not go on assumptions. Let's just not go on what Army Corps is telling you and what Robert Cronin's trying to sell you and the mayor's trying to rush you in. Don't do that. Get smart. Be the people that we elected you to do the job, and just get smart about this and systematic about it and verify the facts. Who of you called the Pentagon and talked to R.D. James' office? I bet none. But you know, he's a real good guy. And he took Auntie Ellen's phone call this morning, his secretary, and passed me up the chain of command to ask my questions. And if I can do that, and I'm a nothing, you are something, and you can do that. So for today, couch this whole thing, send us home to go to the beach, and let's just back up. There's no rush. Thank you.
Thank you. Sum up.
Questions?
Questions from the members? Okay, next testifier.
My name's Pete Arnold. I live in Palolo. What I'm about to talk about is, it's not political. It's just what I think. Hopefully, you guys can do the right thing. I haven't seen any studies, but I've asked a lot of questions of professional people about what could happen to the watershed. And my feelings about that, that is something you can't go back and fix once you mess with it. everybody I have spoken to, and these are professional people who have worked on dams and have worked on rivers, it's going to kill the river. It'll destroy the river and it'll kill the river. That river has been there for millions of years, you guys. The watershed has given life to this island. I don't understand how anyone could consider doing that. It's worth more than millions and millions of dollars. The watershed supplies our drinking water in Pololo and downstream. It brings soil that the farmers planted crops for. It formed these islands, and nobody has studied that or spoken about it. Now, I think that's something that we have to consider deeply. We can't let that be taken away, and I ask you to consider that. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, Councilmember Pine?
Thank you for mentioning that. When I talked to our Kapuna and Waianae, they're starting to talk about these things and how all these canals that were built to prevent flooding actually hurt the area, and it took water that was supposed to go into other natural places for kalo and other things and just wasted the water and put it out to the ocean, also bringing more chemicals to the corals. And so I understand the engineering part, but I think in Hawaii we're very different, and so I'm glad that some of the testifiers are talking about that. I think that the Native Hawaiians knew what they were doing so many years ago. They built where you're supposed to build, not where they knew it flooded.
Yeah, Waikiki, for example.
Yeah. And so maybe we do need to include people that specialize more in the flow of water and how water should flow more naturally into this discussion. So thank you for bringing that up.
It's all connected. What started up there is all connected to right now here, really, if you can look at it that way. And you really don't want to break that connection. You don't want to harm it more than it's already been harmed. So and people who love Hawaii, and I'm not saying you guys don't, but people who love every aspect of it, of the land and the resources that we have, it's not our privilege to touch that stuff. It really isn't.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay, any other questions? All right, next group of four. Okay, Peter Arnold, Sidney Lynch, Aurelia Gonzalez, Arvid Youngquist. Oh, I already called Peter Arnold. You were listed twice. You just testified. Okay.
Thank you, council members. My name is Sidney Lynch. Before I start my 1 minute, I'd like to ask you all, if you're looking at the Alawai Canal and you're thinking about the Mackay side, Mr. Kronig said earlier that the wall can be moved back as far as possible from the canal. And you're looking at the canal, how far can that wall be moved? Where is it going to be moved into? The parking, the traffic lane? The sidewalk is only so wide. So realistically, where is that wall going to go? Okay, now my 1 minute. I oppose 19182. On July 3rd, the City Council unanimously passed Resolution 19145, which asked Mayor Caldwell not to sign on the U.S. Army Corps project until a review of the project was done. Resolution 19182 is in direct contradiction to Resolution 145. Though recently U.S. Army Corps Jeff Herzog and City Director Robert Kronig have been trying to give the impression this plan is eco-friendly and is open to change, this is not true. I ask that when they come before you to testify, which Mr. Kronig already has, that they're asked to answer with a yes or no if the project can be changed. If the answer is yes, then ask them to state specifically what the allowed changes are. You will find that only location of the basins due to geographic unsuitability are allowed, and cosmetic ones, such as what color can the fake rock on the cement wall along the Alawai be. The media has repeatedly said there's a deadline for this project, and last night Mayor Caldwell told me personally that he was informed by Senator Schatz's office that the funds will go away. As we just heard from Ellen, that's not true. At last week's neighborhood board meeting, Jeff Herzog stated that he wanted to clarify there is no deadline and the funds won't go away. Mr. Herzog works for the Army Corps of Engineers. You would think that he would know from his bosses. Have the 4 representatives in Congress work to get this funding changed for a plan that will address the real threat to Waikiki, which is sea level rise, as well as incorporate eco-friendly flood mitigation for the upper watersheds and more equitable mitigation for the areas Malka of Waikiki. This is a plan that all can embrace. The citizens of Napa Valley rejected a traditional Army Corps plan, and the Army Corps came back to the table and worked with environmentally knowledgeable firms to build a plan that is now used as a leader in environmentally responsible flood mitigation. Hawaii should follow this model, not the traditional Army Corps plan, many of which are currently failing on the mainland. Thank you for your time.
Questions? Thank you.
Chair Minor, members of your Executive Matters Committee, my name is Arvid Youngquist. On this resolution and CD1, I would like to recommend suspension of council action and resume your PIG interaction by attending a few more town hall meetings that the administration has been conducting. And be sure to change the membership of your PIG committee so you have the whole committee on a second or third round of rotation, get the whole picture, the bigger picture. I think that deliberation is well worth your time. And, you know, being stampeded is not just the only alternative. Deliberation, taking your time and committing to due diligence, that is your duty. That is what anybody would expect of you. Thank you.
Chair, I'd just like to ask if Mr. Herzog or anyone from U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is here. Okay, I'd like to ask him a few questions at the appropriate time. Not right now, but after you go through the testifiers list. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have Dave Rainey, Trevor Atkins, Wilma Yautz, and Bruce Lum.
Aloha. My name is Dave Rainey, and I'm testifying in opposition to Resolution 182. It would undermine the provisions of and intent of Resolution 19145, which the Council passed unanimously on July 3rd, 2019. As you know, Resolution 19145 would provide for a second opinion before committing to a project that would construct large permanent structures in streams in the upper watershed and commit the city and county to hundreds of thousands of dollars ongoing annual expenses to maintain them. Why not take some extra time now to have a genuine independent review of lower cost, less environmentally damaging alternatives? We're here today because an Army Corps official in D.C. has decided to play hardball and impose an arbitrary deadline on the city and county's agreement to participate in the project. Defeating Resolution 19182 would send a message to that official that we require a more collaborative process in Hawaii. Please vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Okay, let's see. Next testifier, gentleman to your right.
Oh, we can take it out of turn? All right. You read me off last.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Aloha kako, Chair Minor, and council members. My name is Bruce Lum. It has been almost 100 years since the Alawai Canal was created, and we have had only one flood of significant dollar impact and a minimal threat of life. There are many public concerns from opposing sides of the challenge and issue, Waikiki and everyone else being the most polarized. However, we have somewhere between 1 and 100 years to figure out agreeable solutions. For the most salient points that are of concern to us, I believe we can solve the problem to the satisfaction of most serious concerns. I agree with you, Chair Manor, that not enough has been done to date. Did that just go off? Oh, no, okay. Sorry. To date, to figure things out and come up with a better solution. When people say that this project is very complex, the truth is the statement avoids quite a few important elements of the rubric, one of which is land use policy and another is the need for commitment for community behavior modification. I say this because we need a sustainable environmental piece to the solution grid so that whatever we do won't be the first time, knee-jerk, every time thereafter. We need to top to bottom, Mauka to Makai solution as an Alawai watershed flood plan versus a bottom to top attempt that leaves too much to be desired. If it has taken nature thousands of years to provide us paradise in Makiki, Manoa, and Pololo, these valleys are paradise. Surely we can take the time necessary to fix our own thoughtless undoing of what nature so elegantly created and gifted to us. I'd like to refer to an inscription that's on the Border Water Supplies fountain on Beretania. I don't know if anybody reads it. The inscription says, Uwe. It makes me cry. Kalani ola ka onua. When the heavens weep, the earth lives. Please let our earth live. Kill Resolution 1982 CD1. Vote no. We have to end this now. We can't continue to abuse our beautiful islands. Our islands is the golden goose. We're treating it like it's a golden egg. Hello, folks, it's the golden goose. This is what makes people come to Hawaii. We don't want them to forget that the golden goose is still alive. Don't do it. Table this. Think about it. Thank you.
Questions? All right. You're next.
Yes. My name is Wilma Utes, and I represent a family limited partnership that stands to lose residential dwellings and land that is streamside along Pukeli Stream in Upper Pololo, unless we learn otherwise, which we haven't yet. As one who has submitted letters and neighborhood petitions in vain to the Army Corps of Engineers years ago, I see today's Resolution 19-182 as more of the same surreptitious, under-the-radar, steamrolling tactics that the Army Corps has employed throughout this project. This City Council rightfully passed Resolution 19-145 last month on July 3rd, legitimizing community concerns and the need for further study and input. Today's resolution essentially makes a sham of that. You passed this just last month, 48 days ago, and that's not much time for much input or study when the Army Corps has had years, if not decades, laying the groundwork for this project without proper community engagement. How many deadlines will the Army Corps of Engineers, the city, and the state use to strong-arm the public and you, the city council members, into thinking that federal funds will be lost if the project doesn't proceed? At least 2 have come and gone, and yet another deadline is being threatened. The Army Corps has made clear that the funding is approved only for the current design as is, with no substantive changes allowed. The council's right, that's stated here, the council's right to review and approve respective phases of the project is no consolation whatsoever. Once this train leaves the station, there will be no calling it back or stopping it. So I ask and beseech all of you to please oppose and vote no on Resolution 19-182. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Okay, next testifier.
Check. Mai ke kumuhonua ka levalani, mai ka mauna ki e o kona honui, ai ke kaimalino o Maamala, aloha mai kākou. Before I introduce myself, I I just wanted to say mahalo to this council. You folks really gave our school a lot of hope in government when, I think it was, she said 48 days ago, it felt like you guys listened to what we had to say and passed that resolution to uphold what the community is clearly overwhelmingly outpouring, which is that we need to stop and think about this project. And so it was a really great example for our students, our haumana at our school. And I'm just here to ask that you continue to uphold the decision you already made. I don't think that this resolution is any different than the previous resolution. My name is Trevor Atkins. I'm an 8th grade teacher at Halakumana Charter School in Makiki. I'm a geology major. I teach hydrology, astronomy, and earth science and mathematics at the school. My 8th grade class has been working with partners all along Makiki Stream for the past decade. We've made friends along Manoa and Pololo Stream to the point where we now have a coalition of 14 educational institutions and 27 schools along all 3 streams. And together we've discovered 4 things that I'm not sure you're all aware of that I wanted to share with you real quick. First of all, there are only 4 existing lo'i remaining in this ahupua'a in the area of Waikiki. All 4 of those existing lo'i have been identified as locations of these debris retention dams. So the 8 debris retention dams will eliminate every single remaining lo'i left in this ahupua'a. These are the 4 places that we have already begun to restore decades ago. The projects that we're actually trying to use in order to do flood mitigation. Although it's a lot broader than flood mitigation, it's also food security, and it's also water retention, more than just trying to get the water off the land. Because we've been doing these projects so long, we have longitudinal data to show that the native species are coming back exponentially. We've gone from seeing a few o'opu and other species in a stream to now we've identified all 4 lowland o'opu are existing in Makiki, Manoa, and Pololo Stream for the first time documented in over 100 years. And that just happened this year. And I think it's a result of the work that we're doing. In my math class, we looked at, we tried to use the models in the 1,000-page draft document from the U.S. Army about how much time are we buying by destroying this habitat in order to, slow down the flood. And we're calculating that we're going to stop the floodwaters for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours if we're talking about a 100-year flood event. So we're talking about destroying decades of restoration work to keep the water from flooding Waikiki for 4 to 6 hours. And, I welcome somebody to correct me, but I want to see their math. I don't want to just them for throw out numbers. But that's what we came up with is we're just buying a few hours, but we're throwing away these resources that we've been working to build for decades. The last thing that I want to bring up is that the more concerning thing we've come to is that our streams are drying up. We've been only taking data for 10 years, and the streams are dropping. So to talk about flood mitigation and flood management is to really distract us from the biggest problem that this city has. Our streams are dropping quickly. Like we anticipate that of our 3 tributaries, one's already dried up, that's Mauna Laha. Moleka should dry up in the next 10 years at this rate. And if we use math to extrapolate that out for Kaneolole Stream, our last remaining stream of Makiki, we expect it to not last for another 40 years. So there are larger concerns. With $120 million of state money, we could solve both of those problems at the same time. But we just need some more time to think about it. And this is coming from 8th graders. Like, we've also got engineers in the room, we've got professionals, but 8th graders have some pretty good solutions to do it, $100 million. So if the state's willing to commit money to this project, then let's go with that. Rather than chasing after a project where we have no control over, and we've been told that multiple times. We've been told that we're being listened to, but that there's not going to be any changes to the project. So I'd rather have $120 million of state money that we can actually talk about what we're going to do with than chasing after $200 million we have no control over. I want to end with this. Mahalo again for giving my students hope in community government, and thank you for listening. Aloha.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Next group of testifiers, David Yautz. I believe it's Winchester. Winston Welch. Nancy Convert. Okay. I'll have this gentleman who's just sitting down. You can testify first.
Mai ka pikoa wa kea a hiki kai hohonu o Kanaloa. Mai ka hiki a ka hiki mai Hawaii nui o ke ave a hiki ini e ho ka helani ana I ke aloha kako. Aloha. My name is Imai Kalani Winchester. I'm a teacher at Halau Kumana New Century Public Charter School, which is one of the several locations being designated for the detention basins. I'm here just to share a little bit of mana'o because I spent 4 hours trying to wait for my turn. I want to thank everybody for being here today. I oppose the resolution 19-182. There's been a lot of important mana'o that's been shared so far. I want to focus on the inadequacy of the consultation, specifically with our school. The first hint that anything was actually happening at our school is when we found a team of a dozen or so Army Corps of Engineers who were on our campus during our instructional day. When we went to go discuss the issue, we were put in a very precarious situation. And that's something that I think really speaks to the way that this project is being sort of railed through. I'm going to take a few more moments.
Sure.
I also feel that the stakeholders here in Makiki, which include many educational facilities, not just Halau Kumana, but Hanahau Oli School, which is right below us, who would catch the majority of their brunt if this detention dam were to break. I think they need to be brought into the conversation immediately. I believe that Waikiki, as a student at the University of Hawaii, I did a lot of research on Waikiki, and it was basically a dumpster fire in terms of planning. And I believe that the Army Corps of Engineers is doubling down on that poor investment in Waikiki. We have already successfully suffocated our watershed. Like it's been shared, water is only going down. I don't think you'll find a kupuna in the house or in the community that say there's more water today than when they were swimming in those streams when they were kids. Part of the detention dam provides a large safety and security risk for our neighborhood, specifically our students who walk past this detention basin every day to and from school. If you guys know kids, and if you've been into places where they can hop over fences, then you probably know where this is going. And this liability falls on your shoulders, I believe. Finally, this is a very special time for us people as Hawaiians. The world is watching us because of what's going on at Mauna Kea. This is another piece of that continuum of Kanaka Maoli trying to save, try to salvage, trying to restore, trying to revitalize through our own agency that which is most important to us, water, kawaiakani. We are here as a school because this proposed project directly impacts our school without our notification, without our input, without our consultation. There is no consent from Halau Kumana. Despite what everybody may tell you over here, there has been no consent from Halau Kumana. We are here to oppose this project. My name is Imai Kalani Winchester. Thank you for your guys' time. Aloha.
Okay, questions? Okay, next testify.
Aloha. My name is Winston Welch, and I am here representing the Outdoor Circle as its executive director. The Outdoor Circle does oppose this Resolution 19-182 CD1. This resolution is premature and rushed. There's been many excellent speakers and testimonies that you've had here, testifying to who is actually speaking for the land and for the beauty of Hawaii. And I think that is really paramount, that we keep that in mind. There's also then the practical, legal, and other considerations, as Mr. Frankel spoke of earlier, and what you're potentially obligating the city to. As you know, at last night's meeting, and thank you for Council Members Fukunaga, Kobayashi, and Waters, or if you went to the Manoa District Park meeting, or if you go to any of the 7 neighborhood board that are affected by this project who voted for a delay, There's been insufficient public information and involvement from the start in any significant or meaningful manner. I also sit on my neighborhood board for the Kapahulu Diamond Head St. Louis Heights. We have not had a presentation by the Corps of Engineers still at this point. We hear a lot of questions about that. We've been told that there's been good community input, not from my perspective, just and being generous. We've been told that the project can and cannot be changed. We've been told that the money will and will not go away. We've been told that there's deadlines that have passed, that have come and gone. All of this misinformation and lack of information on this project, as required by NEPA and HEPA to get alternatives out there, and the many other questions that we have remain unanswered. There's no need to rush into this. Have we looked at gates, walls, and pumps? It's one of those alternatives. I urge you to read also Iolani School's draft EIS comments for really professional analysis of this. Just alone, the cost raising from $185 to $345 million should raise significant concerns. The flooding Mauka of the canal, Macaulay to McKinley, Kapahulu, Iolani School to H1, Ke'eamoku. All of these areas will be sacrificed under this plan. It does not address storm surge. It does not address sea level change. We need better protection for all of the areas concerned. We need alternatives robustly considered. I said, have the 8th graders do it. It sounds like they've got a real good grip on it. We need transparency in this project. We need to stop being bamboozled, and I want to think that our public officials have our best interests at heart, but we are not feeling the trust with that because of the different answers that we've had. We need robust community participation in this and a lot of other solutions that have not been considered at this time. And I would just like to conclude by what Iolani School says. They say, Iolani School, this is from their draft EIS response, understands the importance of flood risk management and appreciates the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and DNLR's efforts to mitigate flooding in the project areas. However, in addressing the plan to address flooding, NEPA and HEPA must be followed, and the environmental impacts of the action must be appropriately and accurately considered. The agencies must follow the correct processes, take a hard look at the environmental effects of the proposed action, analyze reasonable alternatives, utilize proper scientific methods, and mitigate negative environmental impacts to the extent practicable. Because NEPA and NEPA were not adhered to in this case, the draft report EIS must be significantly revised and reissued in a separate draft for public review and comment. So please vote against this. There's no rush to go into it. You have a process that you're looking at this again, but basically I think no one wants to see anybody flooded out of anything. That's not what's at stake here. But what all your other comments that you're hearing today from your very eloquent testifiers and the testimony submitted online attest that this is it's not right as it's being presented right now. And thank you.
Okay, questions? Thank you. Next testifier.
Good afternoon, or I guess evening now. I'm Nancy Convard. I live in Kaimuki, and I would suggest that while another speaker mentioned that it doesn't affect us in the Kaimuki, and in fact, I think this project affects everybody in Honolulu and the state, because we all have to pay for the damages, the economic damages, infrastructure damages, and the lives lost. We all pay for that eventually. And I believe in this time of increasing natural disasters, increasing severity, we saw this ourselves just last year in East Honolulu, 10 years ago or so in Manoa. And I think the cost of those damages already exceed the cost of this project. I don't have the exact numbers at hand, but that's my best guess right now. So I believe this project is beneficial to everybody, and I am in favor of this resolution. I understand, I should mention I am a civil engineer, environmental engineer by training, and I do get that the rollout of this has been less than superb. There's been a lot of communication, but there is a lot of misinformation out there, and I've heard that in some of the testimony tonight, things that I know are just not true. The flow in the streams will continue. I've read all the reports in the environmental impact statement, which has been completed. They are addressing these issues. I've had the opportunity to attend Corps of Engineers Industry Days, and they are listening to ideas. I know some of the designs around the wall and the levees are being modified to be greener and more community-friendly. So I think we can trust that that communication and stakeholder engagement will continue. Again, I'm fully in support of this project. I think we should trust the Corps of Engineers. I think the resolution writes in requirements for continued dialogue, and I believe that will be accepted and followed. And it's just too important to the community to lose this project. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Okay.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is David Utes, and I'm strongly opposed to the construction of earthen dams on our natural streams as part of the Alawai Flood Mitigation Project. From what I've seen, this is not a popular project with the community, though it seems to have had tremendous appeal to some contractors and some politicians because of the federal money that's involved. It has been inaccurately described as, or stated by officials in numerous public meetings, that the project must be built exactly as planned in order for the money to be awarded. And that's whether or not the plan is the best solution or even a good solution. In fact, today in your hearing, someone said, you know, it has shortcomings, but hey, it's the plan we have. Is that the way we want to go forward with this? Thus, many, if not all, of the alternative concepts that have been brought forth are summarily rejected. I know a little bit about construction, and it's a fact that as a project progresses, making changes becomes more expensive. At some point, it becomes exponentially more expensive. So every step forward with a bad plan makes it harder to back up and get the plan right. Flood mitigation is a good thing. I think I'm all for it, but it must involve the community before, not after the plans are set. Therefore, I ask you not to move forward with this project as currently designed and vote no on Resolution 19-182.
Okay. Questions? Thank you. Okay, so we've gone through our list of registered speakers. I'm going to open up the floor for any individuals who would like to come forward to offer remarks on this particular resolution. So if you want to offer comments, please come forward to the tables in front. Okay. This gentleman here, please proceed.
Aloha, council members. My name is Dave Watase. I oppose this resolution. This resolution is like Pearl Harbor surprise attack. On one hand, you unanimously pass Resolution 19-145, and then on the other hand, you go for the jugular with a knife. This resolution will handicap the City and County of Honolulu's ability to fairly negotiate conditions to the project partnership agreement on mutual grounds. There are many significant changes that, without a doubt, will have to be made to address the community concerns and preferred alternatives. There are significant issues with the modeling, the methodology, engineering, and selected alternatives that point to the question on the reliability of the construction cost of the project. Remember, all cost increases will be burdened solely by the City and County. Any commitment by the City and County to the PPA is very premature, ill-advised, and should be delayed without any risk to federal funding. I'd be a monkey's uncle if this resolution passes out of committee. This resolution is an insult and mockery to honest public opinion and good governance practices. It empowers the wrong people and demonstrates a clear lack of understanding of the facts and concerns of the community and affected stakeholders. CD1 has no teeth to ensure or protect the community, stakeholders, and landowners. Where the PPA has shark teeth and will basically come back and bite us in the ass. If this project partnership agreement is signed, it will trigger and lock in elements of the selected alternative 3A plan. Common business sense and practice is that you don't rush into a contract you know nothing about you're buying. If you sign on the dotted line and then change your mind, we most certainly will lose the federal funding because of a breach of contract. The prudent approach is to work out the details beforehand, work with the beneficiaries of this project, which is the communities, and when all is good, then sign the PPA with the full support of the communities behind you. Mahalo.
Questions? Okay, next testifier.
Aloha. Can you hear me in this thing?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to say mahalo, ova o Noilani Pereira. My daughter attends Halau Kumana School. However, I'm here to share that we have like 5 generations of our family that lives in Palolo Valley. So my grandmother just passed away, 95 years old. Her mother and father, and so there's 5 generations of our family there. So we haven't been here for 20 years. We've been here for generations. And that's in Palolo Valley. My grandmother on my mother's side, who is now 98 years old, who resides in Kailua, grew up in Kapahulu in Kaimaki, still alive. Just wanted to say that mahalo, because I do oppose this resolution, and it is clear that there's many perspectives to this, but yet again, here we are, community. Our guts and bones are going to be dead in this ground 100 years from now if we don't kill it sooner. And we are left yet again as the last people to be included in the discussion. And so it was a very hopeful moment when I heard that your resolution was, you know, a reflection of listening to the people and to the Aina, because we are not separate from our Aina. We are the guts and the bones and the dirt that we walk under. So I just would implore you to really reconsider the dollars and cents of this and think about the common sense of this, is that if you don't have clean water and your children don't have clean water and your parents and grandparents don't have clean water, well, that's like make. We're about ola ikawai. So mahalo, please make the right decision, not the mighty decision, the right decision.
Okay, questions? Okay.
Aloha mai kako. O wau no o kamahao Madeiras. Mai ka aino makiki. So my name is Kamahao Madeiras, and I'm a haumana I'm a student at Halau Kumana New Century Charter School in Makiki Valley. And I wanted to address what a previous engineer was saying about community impact and how he asked, or how he kind of set the stage for anyone who would have who has any knowledge about impact to the community. So my school, Halau Kumana, is above a proposed site, which is Makiki Detention Basin, about 300 feet to be exact. And while I understand the concept behind the want and the need to protect flood-prone areas like Waikiki, those that are in favor of this permanent project may fail to remember that by doing this, it will not only disfigure the landscape, take away homes, but it will also displace positions of education, like my school, and like one of my kumu previously talked about the lo'is. And we also go there every week, and we're educated at these spaces. And by building these dams, they'll back flood, and they'll put these places of education, put my school, put our lo'i at risk. And I also want to acknowledge our kupuna, because they were very skilled in how they use this aina and how they conduct themselves with the land. And the traditional agriculture and these networks that they set up across our pai aina, that's what this aina is used to. And as masters in this art, I have no doubt that if you asked any of them about building these dams, they will, and misshaping the Aina like this, they would be totally against it and in opposition. This detention basin is a permanent structure with irreversible damages and will cause and inflict generational consequences. And I want to ask you guys, our council, is it morally just to trade 3 valleys, 3 communities, Manoa, Makiki, and Palolo for 1 Waikiki? So in no way am I against the need to protect Waikiki and all inhabitants, but I implore everyone to take some serious consideration into this project and to go back. Like my kumu was saying, we should re-implement more porous surfaces like lo'i. It will just take time, but I want you guys to understand that taking time for our Aina and our people is really important, and like really putting some thought into how we conduct ourselves with our Aina in this time, in this space, is really important. And this is coming from a 17-year-old that goes to Hawaiian Public Charter School, whose space of education may be in jeopardy. But I will like to mahalo you guys for listening and taking your time. And I just really hope you reconsider, and I stand in opposition of this resolution. Mahalo.
Any questions?
Good afternoon, Chair, Council members. I'm Audrey Lee, speaking as an individual today. I'd like to just share my 2 cents. I've heard so many amazing things today, things that I did not know about and things that I did know about but have been reinforced. But I'd just like to put this out to you. The plan being set forth in this resolution has not and will not be significantly altered to take into consideration the well-thought-out ideas of the community who've come up with alternative solutions to this huge problem. So to pass this resolution now would be to rubber stamp a very bad plan, and tweaking it after passing will not redeem the badness of this plan. The mayor's verbal assurances to the council and community that all stakeholders will be satisfied, that he said last night, are just words spoken to placate any reservations a council member may have to oppose this. He does not care about the irreversible effects of what happens with this plan, but I hope the council members will all see, not just a few, but all, see that this plan should not be gone ahead with on the possibility that money will not be forthcoming with it. And we heard earlier that, that may be just totally not even real at all. Please oppose Resolution 19-182 and let the Army Corps take the community input into consideration before signing off to go ahead with this project. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Okay, mahalo. Thank you for your testimony. Any other testifiers who'd like to come forward?
Aloha mai kako. My name is Corey Yap. I'm a resident of St. Louis Heights, and I study o'opu. Someone else mentioned it earlier. It's our native migratory stream animal, and it's a great indicator of health of our watersheds. And they don't like concrete. And the more concrete they are in the streams, the warmer the water. If you ever studied Palolo Stream versus Manoa Stream or Makiki Stream, you can tell how warm it is in Palolo Stream. It's like bath water. More concrete is not the answer if we do care about the migration of our native stream animals. And it would be really great if we could slow down the water or hold the water back before it even got to the stream. If you can give me instructions or advice or have someone do a study of how much of my land I need to hold back that water or any containment, please let me know so I can prevent the water, at least in small amounts or tell my neighbors how much we need to hold back just so that we can prevent it from all flushing into the stream so quickly. And I'm in opposition to these dams, but again, I'm not against water retention, just maybe in a different way. So again, if you can help me understand how we can slow down, all of us individually in our communities, I guess, and point fingers in the mirror of what we can do individually to help and I would be greatly appreciative. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Okay, next testifier.
Hello, Maikako, Vau Maleseli Huanovikov. I am a resident of Pololo. I am also a member of an ohana that has been in Pololo from 1920, before this place was even a state. I've seen many changes over time, and I'm disappointed at the way that we are managing our government when we are in a position to be pioneers to show the world that we can change the way we are presenting ourselves, by the way we're using our resources in a way that is harmful to everybody in the long term. I'd like to ask that we start to think about being pioneers that protect the Aina. And that we start to think about this place where I drive around and I see the traffic, I feel like I'm in LA and I forget that I'm in Hawaii. And I start to think if people forgot that we're in Hawaii because it's easy to get concrete from places. It's harder, it requires more work to actually put in the effort to take care of the Aina. I'd like you to start to consider that if we don't watch out and be careful, we might be facing a situation like China, where we have to worry about the air we breathe. And we're only a step away. I'd like to ask if I can keep talking, and thank you also, City Council members, for taking so much time. I know many people have been here. To please start to think about the value of putting our efforts into being beacons of change, not perpetuating the cycle that a lot of us are not happy about. Thank you so much.
What is your name?
Melissa Lehu Anovikov.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Melissa? Okay. Please proceed.
Aloha mai kākou. Ua o Kahealani Keahi, mai Kalavihine Mayo. My name is Kahealani Keahi. I am from Kalavihine Hawaiian Homestead. I'm a parent of a student at Halokumana and a graduate also, so I have two keiki that are from Halokumana. I am a kumu at Ke Kula Kaiapuni o Anuenue in Palolo Valley. So I do represent all three valleys. I live in Makiki at Kalavihine Hawaiian Homestead. My middle daughter, who attends UH Manoa, is at Manoa. And at Palolo is where I'm at and where I work and where the Kahawai fees are lo'i. I would first like to start with I am a descendant of kalu farmers from Kipahulu Maui and from Waipio Valley. I also take care of a small lo'i in Makiki Valley behind Halokumana School for about 10 years. So when I hear about this whole project happening, it's opposite of what we're doing. We're trying to restore the land. We are trying to bring back our lo'i, and we are praying for water. The problem is we don't have water. At Kalavihine, where I live, we have a detention basin that was built almost 20 years ago that has not been taken care of for over 19 years. It has grown in. If water would ever come down, it would flood out wherever it is, at Aneniku. But we don't have that problem because we do not have water flowing from Kanaha Stream. We have a detention basin, and we have a planned 2 million gallon water tank right in front of our detention basin to pull out what water? The little water we have left. Just yesterday, we went to work on the lo'i. There is no water to get to our lo'i. It's drying up. And the previous speaker, Kumu Trevor, talked about Moleka. That's the stream in Makiki, one of three streams, Moleka, Kanealole, and Mauna Laha. Mauna Laha's dried up already. Moleka is starting to dry up. So our kalo is dying. And we use that lo'i to feed our school and the community for makahiki. Kanealole, the third one, that's going to start drying up too. So the problems we have is not having enough water. How dare DHHL build in our Kanaha Kapo'opo'o stream, in our Aina Ho'opulapula, the only stream that runs through Papukolea, Kewalo, and Kalavahine. The only stream we have. We have no water. Our Mo'owahine, called Kalavahine, lived in that stream. We still have kupuna today who have seen her in that stream. We have areas there that goes all the way to the ocean, where Kalavihine lived and made her way up, all the way Mauka, all the way down to Kai. Because of that detention basin and the plannings that's happening, they haven't seen her because there's no water. And it makes me very kaumaha, sad to hear a few of you talking about money. My daughter's here. She's listening to it. I know exactly what she's going to say when we go home. Mom, why are they only worried about the money? What about our aina, what they're going to do when we no more water? Because that's the pilikia, a'ohe kawai. No more water, we don't have our kalo to grow, to feed our people. And that's part of stopping the flood, is the lo'i kalo. That's part of it. So I'd like to reiterate what Kumu Trevor had said. Mahalo you for your previous resolution that you made, because it excited us very much. So if this resolution goes through, you better believe we are going to ku kia'i kahawai. We're going to protect our kahawai and our 3 ahupua'a with everything we have. We are never going to let it go. I have ohana. We're from Nanakuli Hawaiian Homestead as a Blan. We know exactly what happens to all of that. From Maui, my ohana came and they moved to Nanakuli. And we know exactly what happens to the water. Plenty of water used to have over there. All of the cement that happened ruined the aina. So I wasn't there when the detention basin was built in our aina ho'opulapula. It happened after I moved there, but I am 4th generation homestead. I would have never let it happen. I would have stayed there forever to protect it. And we will do the same for our 3 ahupua'a. And we have people behind us, our children, our grandchildren. We're going to do the same thing and protect this aina. And I want to mahalo. Mr. Lam, that brought me to tears. He reminds me of my dad, who still lives in Nanakuli. He feels the same way. He couldn't be here. He's not feeling well. But oe kalani, ola kahonua. Mahalo.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Next, anybody else wanting to come forward? Would like to step forward, come to the table, offer comments? Okay, since I don't see any additional testifiers, we're in the discussion stage, and I think, Councilor Chair, you wanted to call forward to ask a representative of the Army Corps. If we have a representative from the Army Corps to please come to the
Yes,
table.
please.
Yes.
Aloha, good evening.
Hello.
My name is Jeffrey Herzog, and I work for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Honolulu District, and I am the Program Project Manager for the Alawai Flood Control Project. That was recently authorized under 2 authorizations. First, the Emergency Supplemental Long-Term Disaster Recovery Infrastructure Investment Program under the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018, and then additionally authorized under the Water Resources Development Act of 2018. And I am here to answer your questions and perhaps clarify some misunderstandings or misinformation.
Thank you very much. Were you at the meeting last night?
I was.
Did you offer any remarks?
I did.
Would you share with this committee what you said last night?
So-
Because under the Sunshine Law, no more than 3 of us could be there because of the permanent interaction group that was set up. So if you could share with us what you said, for those of us who weren't there, we'd really appreciate that.
Yes, sir. So last evening, and I've been quoted several times in the media as saying the first and foremost is the project that was in the feasibility study was based off of a level of data analysis commensurate with the Corps of Engineers' need to economically and environmentally acceptability to justify a project. And so there was a level of effort done to study the engineering and the modeling during that, knowing that once we moved to a design phase, we would enter into a design agreement under traditional civil works with a partner and then move forward and further enhance our information. And traditionally under civil works, you do not move forward on any kind of information refinement or information data gathering. You don't move forward on anything until you have an authorization from Congress, appropriation from Congress, a non-federal partner, as well as non-federal cost share monies in hand. However, under the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018, Congress authorized the Corps of Engineers in a pot of money that this project was authorized under, not specifically by name authorized under that project, but this project, the Corps of Engineers was given a pot of money to then move forward with a list of projects. The Alawai Flood Control Project was one of those projects identified by the Corps of Engineers. So it was correct in Ms. Watson's statement that R.D. James, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, is the one who controls this money and makes the decisions as to when and if this money is pulled. That authority was given to him by Congress. And it's important to understand that we were told to move forward with refining our data and refining our modeling while we negotiated a PPA, because we fully understand, respect the local and state legislative process, which is why we set a milestone. And it's important to understand the difference between a milestone and a deadline is that a milestone is a mark on the wall for you to achieve, and that date was set at 31 July 2019 in order to respect the state's legislative process as well as the governor's budgetary process. When that date passed, not the Honolulu district, but our senior executive service representative appointed by Congress and by the Assistant Secretary of the Civil Works appointed this gentleman. He went to Washington, D.C. and provided the most recent update and provided a roadmap provided to him from the city and county as well as the state as to what they needed to execute the PPA.
Who is he?
He is Mr. Damon Lilly, D-A-M-O-N-L-I-L-L-Y. He is our Washington representative here at the Pacific Ocean Division. He oversees Alaska, Hawaii, Korea, and Japan. So he went and met with Mr. James Dalton, the Director of Civil Works for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as well as Mr. Eddie Belk, who is another Senior Executive Service Chief of Construction for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He came back and delivered the message to the permitted information group at the meeting with Mayor Caldwell. It may have been 2 weeks ago now, where he delivered the information that they told him August 30th is when they can provide security for the funds. After August 30th, the project and the program-wide, not just the Alawai project, but all projects program-wide would be reevaluated, because while this is one of 27 projects that was authorized under this appropriation, this investment program, there's several projects that were not authorized or not funded under it, and so those projects are waiting in the wings. And so that was the message delivered, not by the Honolulu District, not by myself, but by a senior executive service member representing the Pacific Ocean Division, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir, but what exactly does that mean?
So that means what he was told by...
What are you saying?
He was told, and he provided the information to the mayor, that August 30th is the point in which they can provide the necessary top cover. Beyond that, it will probably go back and they will converse and look at all the projects program-wide. That is not to say, because there is no expiration of funds, there is no congressionally authorized 902B limit. That is a correct statement. However, there's projects out there who are waiting for money and waiting for authorization to proceed. And with the upcoming federal fiscal year, they will start evaluating projects that are not moving forward against projects that could potentially move forward. And that decision will be made at the USACE Washington level, not at the Honolulu District level.
So then the fiscal year starts for the
October
federal
1st.
government October 1?
October 1st, yes, sir.
Okay, so are you telling this committee then that if we don't move forward by the end of August with this resolution, then this project and the funds with it are in jeopardy? Is that what you're saying?
I can tell you what Mr. Lilly passed on to the mayor, and that is they could only assure funding up until August 30th. Beyond that, it is out of the Honolulu District and the Pacific Ocean Division's control. Now, we provide weekly. Recently, it's been more like daily updates as to where we are at, because the city and county and the state are moving in a direction to be able to execute this resolution, just being one of those steps necessary. So We at the Honolulu District and Pacific Ocean Division are very supportive and respect the process. However, we do not control the money. It's at the USACE Washington level.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Pine.
In the Army Corps of Engineers, do you folks have engineers that specialize in native practices and engineering of water flow and its effect on the environment?
So, ma'am, there's two separate ways that we address that. First, we have hydraulic engineers and hydraulic specialists who bring forward the engineering solutions. However, we also are mandated to use environmental operating principles, and so in that way, we do work with landscape architects, we do work with cultural practitioners, and just a prime example is we've reached out to the Kumo'ola Foundation up in the Manoa Valley, because it's very important, the work that Halau Kumana and the Kumo'ola Foundation is not to take away what they're doing, because we have great respect for what they're doing, but how can we integrate our project into theirs? So it's important to understand our intent is to not take away Halau Kumana. We are not impacting the Lo'i Terrace, and we understand and we respect that they may still be opposed to the project. We just want to make sure that everybody's fully informed as to what this project means. The goal is to integrate environmental operating principles with our design considerations.
The first designs that you released to the public, did it include those cultural considerations? The first design.
Right. So, and I brought them, and so on section 1.3 of the EIS, the Environmental Impact Statement, it specifically discusses some of the species that we are looking, and o'opu and other mollusks and shrimp, the opai and the hapavai and the hihivai. I apologize if my Alaskan dialect is butchering those. It's not meant to disrespect, but it specifically says that those endemic gobies will be incorporated into the environmental operating principles. Additionally, in the record of decision signed by the Assistant Secretary of Civil Works, Mr. R.D. James, there's specifically two areas, we call them Manoa Falls 7 and Manoa Falls 8, and I have photographs of them here, and they're in the environmental impact statement, in which they're currently a vertical drop-off. And by our ecosystem restoration modeling, we're showing that we could potentially improve the goby habitat in that area by approximately 4,000 units by simply taking away those vertical drop-offs and making them a more gradual slope. So those are authorized. So when you see in the authorized project, you see it's just highlighted as mitigation. Those are specifically two of the mitigation that we are doing to make sure that we fall in line. Similar with the earthen dams and similar with using the Hawaii native grasses with those 15-foot deep roots that are great for erosion control. And we want to minimize the amount. These are earthen dams. These are not concrete dams. They're low flow outlets that are not meant to impede fish passage or native species. And so vegetation will continue to grow on these earthen dams. And this has been, and the Corps of Engineers, we're great engineers, but we're not always good at the communication piece. And one thing.
I know my husband's an engineer.
Yes, ma'am.
But we've learned to communicate. He lets me talk and talk and talk, but I have to ensure that he hears what I say.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And specifically, I am not an engineer.
Oh, okay.
I'm a retired U.S.
Then why
Army-
aren't you expressing things better, you know?
Well, the one thing I hope is clear is I have been on this project now for just over a year, and I've been blessed to be on this project for just over a year, and I have never hesitated to talk story with anybody or to take phone calls and to communicate with people. Now, I keep saying that this project as designed in feasibility is not the project that's going to be constructed. We've spent the last 9 months and almost $350,000 updating to a very more rigorous modeling set. And now that we have what our future without project footprint looks like, and I've provided that at neighborhood board updates, I've provided that on our website, I've provided that to anyone who will listen to me. And now that we have that footprint, we can go in because the city the mayor, Director Croning, the state, and everybody has the same concerns, and that is mitigating impacts to private landowners and this concrete flood wall. And again, we're great engineers, but really we should have done much better job of communicating what that meant down at the canal. And so I can't speak for the previous team, but I can only speak as the leader of the current team, is that you've got to get me to shut up, let alone talk.
I can tell that you're trying your best, and it's good that you're here. But I think this is a good moment for the community. It shows that it's time for politicians to listen to the community, and so you're coming at a really good time, and I can tell that you have a good heart. Do you think that there are areas that the Army Corps of Engineers can have agreement with what the community is proposing?
So it's important to understand, and we understand that we will never make everybody happy. You can't please all the stakeholders. If you were to turn the golf course into a taro farm, you would upset the golfers. But if you don't do anything in the upper watershed, then what's going to happen is the bottom of the bowl is Makali, Makiki, and Moiliili, and they are the ones in Iolani School. And one of the biggest complaints from Iolani School is that in our feasibility study, we weren't addressing and protecting them. And one commitment that we made to Iolani School is that, and more importantly, Alawai Elementary School, which is right below that, and they're closer to the canal, is that when our modeling is updated, we will ensure that we are not inducing risk or causing harm to any of the keiki in that area, because, I mean, it would be immoral and unjust and illegal for us to induce risk on them. So if we need to extend protection up there, we absolutely will.
Thank you very much.
Chair.
Is it true that this proposed project... Is it true that this project will only buy hours at best in regards to rainfall?
No, but it's important to understand that this is a flashy watershed. I'm going to use one storm, for example, and that was Hahaione Valley, April 17th of 2018, 10 inches of rain in 5 hours. 10 inches of rain in 5 hours. It did its damage, and then within hours, the water had gone away, but the damage was already done. So the intent is to be able to impact the peak of the storm. The damage to the watershed, and I fully agree with the Kumu who were talking earlier and saying that the damage was done from 1921 to the 60s when we were developing and we were altering where Manoa Stream, 2004, if you ask the residents, 2004, that flood, that the stream was going back to its natural stream bed and it was following its natural terrain. It was altered, so now we are forced to build a resilient community and bring resilience to a community using engineering and new technologies so that you can retrofit a system that it will take several years to do, but this is a huge piece that will bring a lot of benefit to the community.
Can you speak to utilizing concrete in various streams in the area? Can you share with the committee exactly what that means from your perspective?
From our perspective, concrete is what you used in the 60s. We have moved along in technology, and even where concrete is necessary, it will be minimized to survivability. So, for example, a spillway on an earthen berm will require a concrete spillway so to be able to survive an event far beyond what we're predicating for. Down at the bottom of the low flow outlet, we will use earthen rock and riprap as much as we can, but the immediate outlet of that, in order to prevent scouring, you're going to have some concrete in there. Now, that is not in and around the low flow outlet at the bottom of the stream.
In the water? In
the water, yes. But that is not to say that we are building concrete structures. They are earthen structures, so vegetation will continue to grow on them. A prime example, Nu'uanu, or if you, a Corps of Engineers example would be the Kaneohe Kailua Dam over there. It's a beautiful camping and recreational area on the windward side, yet it's provided protection for long over 60 years to the windward communities over there. Other examples can be found over by the University of Hawaii Hilo, where the Wailoa Flood Control Project, and it saved Hilo over $15 million in damage after Hurricane Lane because it performed as designed and prevented a lot of damage.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You indicated that you're here to clear up any misconceptions or misinformation, so I'll give you that opportunity. What areas would you like to clarify or respond to?
Well, from the politics side of the House, I do appreciate people understanding that it is USACE Washington who controls the money and not the Honolulu District, and that we are providing information and we are the ones on the ground, and we are not the ones making the financial and fiscal decisions. The other thing we'd like to clear up is the fact that these are not concrete dams. Concrete dams is what you find in Hahaione Valley at the top of, above Hahaione Elementary. That was from 1968. We have moved well beyond that. And we have subject matter experts from across the nation through the Corps of Engineers and even external designers and innovators who are bringing examples such as e-concrete. Those are all design considerations. Those were not taken into consideration in feasibility because it wasn't the appropriate time for it. The idea that this project is going to be built 100% without any changes from the feasibility study is wrong, and I hope I am quoted again as saying that the project and feasibility is not the project moving forward, and that we are listening to the community, and that we are taking feedback, and we've even gone as far as trying to provide professional engineering reasons as to why some of those alternatives would not be best for this specific watershed, although they may work on the mainland. The idea that we're eliminating the lo'i is not true. We want to work with these organizations to preserve and integrate our project into those. We want to continue to work with the city and county and the state on ecosystem restoration. These two are just two of several projects that we can move forward, and I've provided that information both to DLNR, the state, and Board of Water Supply for their capital investments plan. So we're here to listen.
Okay, yes? Councilmember Fukunaga? Did you have a question?
Well, I did want to kind of bring to the Chair's attention that, this affects Councilmember Kobayashi's district more than most of the rest of us. And, she did give us notice early on this afternoon that she would have to leave at a time certain. So, I did want to at least give her an opportunity to...
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Proceed.
Yeah, I was supposed to leave at 5:30 because I'm hosting two people for their birthday at 6 o'clock. And I thought we'd be through long before this. But I am totally no on this. I've always supported the community and their concerns for many years. And I will never give up. I will never give up supporting them. Thank you. So my vote is no. Thank you.
All right, we're still in the discussion phase. Well, what about the concern that some of the potential proposed improvements may mitigate any flood risk or damage with respect to Waikiki, but it could increase flood risk with respect to other areas, low-lying areas? And in particular, there was the reference to discussion about the wall that, logically speaking, if that's going to hold back the flood waters to protect Waikiki, that's going to back up and, I guess, flood the other areas. Is that a legitimate concern?
Yeah. So specifically to that, that individual has spoken with two of my professional engineers, and he has been assured that backing it back up and then impacting the areas is just not the case. We've accounted for sea level rise in this project. So our base project is 2.5-foot king tide, and then we've accounted for in 50 years 2.8 feet of sea level rise, and then over 100 years another, so 3.8 feet of sea level rise. And part of the wall height, the elevation of the walls, is based off of that sea level rise concern. So we've accounted for it that way. We've also accounted for the amount of water that comes down. So as the water comes down, it has enough head to push out through the canal. And I've had hydraulic engineers from the New Orleans District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as well as the Risk Management Center, as well as the Levee Safety Center of Expertise, provide those same answers to us, because it's illegal, immoral, and unethical for us to induce risk. The idea that we could just protect Waikiki is true. We could. That study was done in 2001, and you could just put flood walls up along the canal and provide that protection. However, the bottom of the bowl, per se, is Makiki, Moiliili, and the Macaulay area. And there's a lot of impervious surface, and there's a lot of underground streams. Nahola Street, and then from South Baratania to King Street, the Makiki stream is underground. And so we have to try and retrofit a system within our authorizations. That's why this is a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole answer, but it's a good start based off of our engineering data. And so we want to reduce the flood risk down in the Macaulay, Moiliili, and the Makiki area. That is a prime target area, because whether it's from the Makiki, Manoa, or the Palolo, it all filters its way back down to those areas.
And what about the concern that the issue is not flooding? Flooding isn't really the concern, but rather the drying up of the streams?
So I'm not here to make any political statements about climate change, but you can clearly look outside based off of Hurricane Lane, the rain bombs. Climate change is real, and we are still a learning organization as the Corps of Engineers, but as a society as to what are the impacts to those. And so anything that we can do, and I've made this statement to the state legislation, I'll make the statement to the city council, is we have authorizations for ecosystem restoration. Although it was not justified on an entire watershed scale, if we can identify smaller project areas, specifically where you have vertical drop-offs in the stream beds, if you can return those to a gradual slope, it's a simple fix, but what does it do for migratory habitat and for ecosystem habitat restoration? So we certainly want to investigate those, but those could be done in a parallel and separate effort as this project.
Councilmember Elefante.
Thank you, sir, for being here. So what I'm hearing is, if there would be no action here today on this resolution, would you say that would increase the potential for flood risk, as it would impact the Waikiki or surrounding areas by not taking any action here today?
Again, I'm not the politician to tell you that the money's going away. However, what I will tell you is this. Anyone who is familiar with the EIS understands that we weren't even going to look at moving into a design agreement until March of 2021. We were looking at a 2-year design, and we were looking at a 4 to 6 year construction window. So we were looking at 2028 probably is when you'd start seeing flood protection in this area. However, the mayor, the governor, your congressional representation, when this opportunity for an emergency supplemental, they identified that the flood risk here in Hawaii it's real and it's happening. Just because it necessarily hasn't happened in the Alawai watershed since 1967, it's still a very real threat. And so they pushed for this project to move forward. And so based off of their decisions, this project has been identified as an emergency supplemental project, and therefore our intent and goal is to get this project in the ground to protect the community, the infrastructure, and the economy of the area before that storm occurs.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? Okay, so this is a very important measure, and the council members who wish to cast a vote on this, I'd like to afford the opportunity to have that council member present to cast his or her vote. And in that regard, I have a request from Councilmember Waters, who is also one of the members of the Permitted Interaction Group, that he indicates that he would like to vote on this measure, and he should be back into this building by 6 p.m. He also has a proposed amendment that he's handwritten, and it's been circulated among the...
We have not
Okay.
received it.
Yep. Okay, so he wrote these amendments out, I guess, in response to one of the previous testifiers who indicated that the resolution should be amended. It should include a number of amendments, so Councilmember Waters has worked on these amendments. It's also my understanding that the Office of Council Services is also working on a draft. And I think because these are substantial amendments, I think it would be important and also helpful for the committee members to have the actual hand-carried committee draft available to us and also to the public for review before we take final action on this resolution. So in that regard, and I don't see the council chair here, I'm sure he would want to cast a vote as well. So at this time, yes.
I don't know if you're up.
Councilmember Elefante.
If I just may offer feedback, being that you did mention about Councilmember Waters and him returning back to the building at 6. I know there were other items on the calendar for agenda. I don't know if you want to take those items up now while we await the return of Councilmember Waters. I'm just throwing out a suggestion out there in the efforts of time and where we are. But
Yes.
that's up to you, Chair. I defer to you.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah. Councilmember Fukunaga.
You know, since this is kind of a very contentious subject for all of our communities, if he does have amendments, to propose, I'd like to request that we make copies and give them to the audience as well, because, they've been waiting patiently during the last 4 hours, and since we're extending, to allow other council members to return, I think we should share as much information with the public so that, we can all move forward.
Well, that was the intent. As I indicated, the Office of Council Services is working on a draft
Can we just copy
CD.
this for now?
Why don't we just make copies of, this proposal?
That-
Because at
that is
least
fine.
conceptually, it
Okay.
kind of helps make it easier for people to, respond to some of these
Yeah,
proposals.
no, your suggestions are well taken. So can we have some additional copies made? Okay, some copies are already being made for distribution to the members of the handwritten proposed amendments that Councilmember Waters is proposing. Is it-
The draft has been transmitted to, I believe, the staff.
Okay, but, so it's still being worked on? It's still being worked on?
No, it's done. It's done.
Okay, so I've been informed by Office of Council Services that the proposed committee draft that Councilmember Waters is proposing is available for distribution. So instead of circulating this handwritten version, and I must admit that Councilmember Waters' handwriting leaves much to be desired. Well, that's much better than mine. I actually can kind of understand it. So why don't I just call a brief recess? And then when we get the committee drafts, then we'll get those all circulated for the committee members and the public to review. And in the meantime, we will await the return of Councilmember Waters, because I think he needs to be here to explain this, and he indicated he wants to vote on this committee draft.
Sorry,
Yes.
just a brief comment. Personally, I have a little bit of issue that we look into amendments when Councilmember Kobayashi isn't here, though, because it's the majority affecting her district and her community, and she's not going to be able to hear what those amendments are. And we're taking not just this vote, but supposedly going on to a council vote. So I don't know what our options are, but I feel uncomfortable
voting on amendments without Councilmember Kobayashi here that she hasn't seen yet, so.
Yeah, I understand that. We all have outside commitments, it's unfortunate, but this is an important issue, and there are other important measures that we were taking up, and this is one of those days when our committee meetings are running late, but these hearing notices were posted, and we'd like to accommodate every council member to be able to deliberate on this. I don't know, was Councilmember Kobayashi going to be able to return later, or?
Well, since we want to make available, as much information as possible, and
Which is happening right now.
which is kind of at 6 o'clock almost, after the committee meeting that was scheduled for 1 o'clock. Perhaps it would make more sense for us to give people a chance to review the proposed amendments, and certainly to give Councilmember Kobayashi an opportunity to review it. Why not recess the portion of the EMLA meeting that takes up this particular topic till tomorrow afternoon? We have a slew of committee meetings this week. Most of the council members are in, the building for the purposes of those meetings, and I think that would be a fairer way to ensure that she would also have an opportunity to take a look at some of the proposed amendments.
Okay. We'll definitely consider your suggestion, Council Chair.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, Chair, I apologize for constantly running in and out and being on my phone. My son is at football practice, and once I left him there, and I just wanted to ensure I didn't do that again. So sorry about the constant running in and out, Chairman. I believe we would have to at least convene the special council meeting due to the state sunshine law, and then but I believe we could also recess that council meeting. So perhaps, if this committee is so inclined, after taking up the other items, Chair, we recess this meeting, I would then gavel the council meeting to order, and would be willing to recess the council meeting till tomorrow. I believe we can do that, if we could check with the Office of Council Services, just to ensure legally that that's okay. But that's something, as Chair, I'd certainly be willing to entertain with the agreement of the members. Thank you.
Well, we have Councilmember Waters, you're back. So we have your proposed committee draft circulated. So since this has been circulated, and I indicated that you had worked on these amendments, and you've returned now to our committee meeting, why don't I give you the opportunity to explain your amendments and the intent behind these amendments?
Sure, thank you. Basically, I'm going off of Chair Anderson's proposed CD1. And I'm simply adding a be it further resolved, second to the last paragraph, which states, be further resolved that prior to the obligation or commitment or expenditure of city funds, including funds that come from the state for the project, the city shall ensure that A, a final environmental impact statement has been accepted by the relevant state or county authority pursuant to HRS Chapter 313. Any and all applicable special management area permits have been obtained. Any and all applicable stream alteration channel permits have been obtained. By the way, A, B, and C are already required, but we just want to make sure that it's in here. D, alternatives including reducing impervious surfaces and using the LOI golf course to retain flood water are explored. And E, it has sufficient funding to maintain the project, meaning the city has sufficient funding to maintain the project. That would be my addition to Chair Ikaika's, Anderson's proposed resolution.
Okay, thank you. So I am sensitive to the concerns that were raised by Councilmember Fukunaga, and Councilmember Kobayashi we'd like to give her the opportunity to review these amendments and to ultimately be able to vote on these amendments and the underlying resolution. So one possibility, I throw it up open for discussion and share. This is a procedural matter, but we can convene and then recess the full council meeting. We can take up all of the items on the executive matters agenda today for final vote, for vote by the committee, with the exception of Resolution 19-182. And we could reconvene on Resolution 19-182 and coordinate that with the full council meeting when it's reconvened again after we recess. That's a suggestion procedurally.
So are you suggesting, Chair Emeritus, that we move the resolution out of committee and then take it up in council and recess? Or are you proposing that we recess your committee, convene the council meeting, recess that too, and come back in both tomorrow?
Well, to just...
What are you proposing?
Yeah, postpone decision-making on Resolution 19-182, just on this reso.
In committee?
In committee.
Okay.
And then that's, of course, then we're going to have to reschedule. We're going to have to schedule an official decision-making on Resolution 19-182 at a later point in time. And what I'm suggesting is that we take this up for final decision-making in conjunction with the full council meeting, on the
In
same day
September.
that you schedule it. So we can reconvene an Executive Matters Committee meeting on this reso. And then following that Executive Matters Committee meeting, we can then have the full council meeting to vote on this resolution as
Are
well
you
as all
suggesting
the other-
another special council meeting? Or are you suggesting we do this in September?
Yeah, just another special Executive Matters Committee meeting.
And then,
And the
What?
council meeting.
Yes.
and then we take this
then-
up at the September council meeting?
No,
Is that
we
what you're
can.
suggesting?
I think the intent was we wanted to have a special council meeting this week.
Yep.
So my thinking was, you set up, or you reschedule that special council meeting, and then as far as the Executive Matters Committee meeting with respect to this resolution, we can postpone action on this resolution and take it up at the subsequent Executive Matters Committee meeting, make a final decision on the resolution, and then thereafter, we would have the special council meeting in which we would take a final vote as a full council on this resolution, together with the other items that I'm prepared to vote on the Executive Matters agenda. So I was going to recommend that we postpone action on Resolution 19-182.
Okay.
And then we take it up, on the same day that we have the special council meeting.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember, and this is for the purposes of giving the public an opportunity. This is one of those issues where no matter what we decide, we're not going to please everybody, but we need to give the public an opportunity. I agree with Councilmember Fukunaga.
So we'll gavel the special council meeting to order then following this meeting,
Yes,
and we can recess that meeting
yes,
to a date to be
to a date.
determined.
Yes.
I would suggest then, Chair Emeritus, rather than adjourning this meeting, you simply recess it so that we can come back. Otherwise, you're going to need to wait 6 days to recalendar all over again.
I see.
We can certainly confer with Corporation Counsel to iron this out. I know it's a bit messy, but if we recess this, if we adjourn this meeting,
I see
the
what-
state,
I
the
see
state
the point.
sunshine law requires 6 days' notice before we can post
Okay.
another
Okay.
meeting agenda.
So we'll just recess both meetings then. Okay. I mean,
Yes.
right, recess both meetings.
Point of
Yes,
clarification,
Councilman Belafonte.
Chair Emeritus and to Council Chair. I know that there is a subsequent meeting after this, and the Resolution 19-182 is not the only item on that agenda. There's another item based on the actions of this committee here today, which is Resolution 19-198. So I just want to be clear, depending on the actions of today, are we recessing the council meeting in its entirety, or are we going to take up the other item pending action on what happens? That's Resolution 19-198, which is on the agenda. Just point of clarification.
So the intent, I believe, is to recess the entire Executive Matters to a date time, sir.
So, Chair, can we call a short recess, please, Chair? Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to reconvene this Executive Matters Committee meeting. So after discussing the procedural aspects of this agenda further with our legal staff, at this time, I would like to announce that today's Executive Matters Committee agenda, all of the items, we're going to basically recess this committee meeting with respect to all of the items on our Executive Matters Committee agenda, and we will reconvene this committee meeting for the purposes of continuing discussion and having final decision-making tomorrow in this committee room at 1 o'clock p.m. Okay, so we're recessing today's committee meeting and reconvening tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. to give the public an opportunity to review the hand-carried CD that has been circulated and to which would also enable Councilmember Kobayashi to review the draft as well. So, Council Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I'm asking the Office of Council Services, that being said, are we able to move forward immediately with the council meeting, the special council meeting, so that we can recess that, or does Office of Council Services staff need some additional time?
Yeah, you should open it up, like you said, yeah, hold it open, and then again, recess it to...
No, that I understand, but does staff need any additional time to prepare anything, or you okay? So you don't need any additional time to prepare anything?
He might need time, Mike might need time.
Okay. Mr. Lowe, do you need any time to reconfigure your cameras?
5 minutes.
You need 5 minutes.
How much you been?
Okay, I tell you what, Chair, we'll give them 10 minutes to ensure they have enough time.
Okay, and so again, this Executive Matters Committee meeting is in recess, and we will reconvene tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. in this
And we'll convene the council meeting in 10 minutes.
Okay, and we will convene the council meeting in 10 minutes. Okay, recess.